Can you talk about the 5 years you put in trying to get people to invest in your first movie?
It was a long journey, but well worth it. I would say that initially, when I first started to go after different people to try to see if, I didn't have the money to make a movie, right? So, what I had was a script, and I just had the passion for actually doing it, right? To actually want to do it, rather. And what happened was, I went around to a bunch of people, probably, 10 people, just over the course of, maybe a few years, and asking, people that I felt like, okay, well, maybe I can get it from him, maybe I can get it from her, or whatever. But again, it was, I think that, the challenge for me was the fact that, and probably the reason why a lot of people didn't want to invest was because I didn't have a sound business idea. So, at that point, it was just a passion project, right? It was, okay, well, I want to make this movie, but I didn't even have any data to tell people, okay, well, this is how much we can make off of this, because I didn't know, right? And I'm sure most beginning filmmakers, people who have scripts and they looking to get into this, how would you have any data? There's no data available. You don't know. So that right there was a challenging moment for me. And eventually what I ended up telling myself was, I'm not going to keep asking people to give me no money, because I came to that conclusion. And I said, this is not going to happen because, number one, I can't even show people how they going to make their money back, right? Number two, which is let me go back, which is very different now with all these streaming services out here. If a newer filmmaker is trying to get someone to invest in a project, and I'm talking a independent project where your budget might be, let's say, $50,000 to $70,000, right? The best thing you can do is go find a producer who can help you show some numbers. I didn't have that available to me, right? So throughout that process, I think I probably spent about 3 years trying to get somebody to give me money, right? I thought I needed $20,000, $25,000. So I'm trying to get this money. And it didn't happen. Ultimately, it didn't happen. And I think that it didn't happen because it wasn't supposed to happen. So now that I think back on it, right, we're going to go back to that whole rejection thing again. So I think that I was being rejected because it wasn't time. And ultimately, what ended up happening was I ended up coming up with the money myself. And when I when I came up with the funding for the project, that kept me in position where I could retain 100% ownership to my content, right? And by that time, I had more information. And another good thing was the fact that if I had made that investment with somebody else's money, I would have had to figure out, like, how do I hurry up and get their money back? But by it being my money, I was able to be patient and just work the process through. Because even when I shot the movie, my first movie, it took me like 1.5 years to get distribution, because I didn't know any of this. So all of this was new to me. So imagine me getting $25,000, $40,000, whatever, from somebody to shoot a movie, and I'm sitting on it for 1.5 years, right? Imagine the kind of pressure that would have been. So when I say that, I just mean that that all of these things happen in my situation, and it could be different for somebody else. I feel like in my situation, it happened the way that it was supposed to. And it was a long process, but I eventually got it done, and I did it on my time, and I did it the way I wanted to.
Why wouldn't anyone invest in your first movie? I know you said you were chasing 20,000, 25,000.
Mm-hmm.
Was this from the same person, or?
No, it was different people. I think nobody wanted to invest in it because, as I said, I don't think I had a solid business plan. Not to mention the fact that I had no experience. And on top of the fact that I was asking people to invest in a movie that knew nothing about the movie business, right? So I think that a lot of investors who are going to come on board and invest in an artist is someone who have some level of passion for artistry. And a lot of the individuals, they just that wasn't something that they was interested in. So, you know, I don't hold nothing against anybody. I just think that, you know, that once again, that's one of those things where you have to be realistic and you have to move in a way when you're seeking out investors and things like that. You need to be dealing with people who are real prospects. And at that time, I just didn't know anybody within the film industry outside. I only knew the people that I had knew, you know, just in my life in general. I didn't know anybody in the film industry.
Personal question here, but how much of your own money did you put in to your first movie?
First movie total, probably marketing plus the movie, probably was about $40,000.
And it was all at once, or it was over the course of a few years?
Well, no, that was all. I probably put more into it. I mean, if you talk about, you know, plane tickets and all that kind of stuff. But initially, it was about the initial budget was, I want to say, $25,000 for the movie, and then the marketing of it, the 15 came later once the film was out and, you know, whatnot.
Okay. All right, that's a good chunk. I'm not sure it's doable for everybody, but yeah, that's, and so you felt, did you feel good too that you didn't need to keep chasing these individuals around, like for asking them, checking in with them?
Yeah, it felt it at the time, it was so much going on to where I wasn't able to think about it.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
But later on, you know, in retrospect, you think back on things, you think back on years, like, okay, after you've built a catalog and you start to look at some of the stuff you've done, I mean, you can appreciate that you did it on your own terms, you know, and had I not continued to press forward with wanting to do the first movie, even with all the rejection that I was getting, had I not continued to push forward, I wouldn't be here right now. So it's fulfilling, you know, now to know that, first of all, I was able to accomplish that milestone. That was a big milestone in my life, and it was also a big milestone, you know, just in my career as a producer. You know, a lot of people, they ask me, would you ever shoot Circumstances 1 Over? And I tell them, I probably wouldn't. And the reason why, because I think that it's important for young filmmakers to see what you can come from, right? So, and when I say that, I mean that the production value, the hustle, everything that it took to make that movie, right? Even with all the imperfections in the movie, I still, excuse me, I still wouldn't, even with all the imperfections in the movie, I still wouldn't want to shoot it over, because I think that, to me, it's a piece of history that I wouldn't want to take away from someone who is at that level, right? Someone who's at that level of wanting to become a filmmaker. They need to see some realistic work, a realistic idea of what can happen with a budget that's not so big, right? Because most people, they can attain a budget of $25,000. They can, you know, what I mean, if you work hard enough and you focus, you can do that. But it's a different level when you're talking about $100,000 movie, right? The production value is different. So, I mean, you want a beginning project like that to be a starting line for somebody who is trying to break in the industry and they don't have a lot of resources.